Hey guys, Whip here, and welcome back to Minecraft. So, today we're going to be taking a little bit of a break from our regular scheduled programming, and we're going to be talking about something that people ask me about all the time, which is, how do you do texture variation, or can you make a tutorial on how to do texture variation? So today, I'm hopefully going to be able to give you guys a little bit of insight on that, kind of how we do the texture variation on builds like these, on large flat faces and things like that, just a little bit more of how you can. My goal with this video is to talk about how to work with a gradient. If you guys like this type of stuff, be sure to let me know down in the comments below if you guys want to see more about how I do like texture variation for like cliffs and things like that. But today our goal is to talk about a gradient, and this right here is a great example. You can see our stone cobblestone going from there, working all the way up into the diorite and stone mix, eventually going up to the pure diorite andesite, a little bit andesite and mostly stone up at the top. So anyways guys, before I blab on too long, let's get into this. So since Minecraft everything here is a large block, it's kind of hard to work with a default gradient of, say, like if you open up Photoshop or open up some image editing software and you just click the gradient tool, it's hard to work with that type of stuff. But if you go ahead and look up a monochromatic pixel gradient, you'll be able to see some cool stuff. I'll throw an image of one of them up here on the screen so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about a little bit more so than that. And sorry about that ding, that was my phone in the background. But anyways, there's a few different sections of doing it. There's the basic one, which is kind of just like a wave of kind of spinning things in between each other. Works really, really well for if you just want to have like two colors blending in together. Then if you want to make that a little bit further, there's a thing called dithering, which I'll show up here on again, which is basically you take a 1x1 circle of kind of splitting them in half, or not 1x1 area where you kind of you flip the pixels back and forth until you kind of get a smoothed out effect through that. And it just kind of slowly, you ease them in and dither it out, more or less. There's a reason why it's called that. You just smooth the textures out so there's a little bit of a mix in between where the two harsh colors meet up, and it helps kind of smooth that area out and helps create your gradient. Beyond that though, you can go ahead and mix that up even further, and instead of following that strict like line that you guys saw in that first image of it, you can go ahead and follow a little bit of a slower line right there. Or not slower, but like a more mixed up one where it's just a little bit more variation, moving those up and down, side to side, things like that, just making those pixels look a little bit more naturally smoothed out in between them instead of like breaking apart and being that hard line that you still get with that blank one. Now, after you have that though, then we can get into anti-aliasing, which you actually see used in Minecraft a lot, and it helps smooth out builds and it helps smooth out things. There's actually an option in game for it. But anyways, we're going to be looking at anti-aliasing when it talks about pixel art, because Minecraft is a giant pixel art game. Whether you're doing 2D or 3D, it's still all pixel art more or less. And from there, you can see in this one's a little bit harder to explain, but more or less you're using a similar color in between your color A and your color B. You're bringing in a color C that's in between the two of them and helps bring them together. That's a great way of smoothing it out, whether you use a lighter color that's closer to color B, or you use a darker color that's closer to color A, or you're using two different shades in there and really just kind of help smooth those different colors out. That's what anti-aliasing is. It's bringing a color in between what you guys see in Minecraft. So basically, say you want to work from cobblestone going to diorite or cobblestone going to stone. It's very harsh if you go directly cobblestone to stone, but if you mix an andesite as is in between, it helps smooth that variation out, and then you can go on from there. And even if you want to divide those sections up even further, you can go ahead and do that and say in between your cobblestone and your stone, you want to go ahead in there and add, say, like a light gray concrete powder, and that'll help it out even more. And say if you want to get like a darker color down at the base from what, instead of just the cobblestone, and you go with, say, like, I don't know, a cyan terracotta, which still is a little gray for being a cyan terracotta or something like that, or even like a light gray concrete or something in there that's just a little bit darker, you can go ahead and use the powder version of that and help smooth it out or in there, if that makes sense. Anyways, we're going to go ahead, and now that we're over here at the town, we're going to go ahead and look at a few different ways that I've managed to do this in vanilla and kind of show you guys the different steps of what I go through for it. So this spot right here is actually going to work out perfectly because I was extremely lazy. So you can see right here, we're starting from our cobblestone, we go into a little bit of an andesite area, stone area, then we work up into our diorite, which is a retexture to be a lighter stone color in our building with whip world here. Over here, you can see how I started all of this. So you can see I went ahead and did 2 layers of our cobblestone, 2 layers of our andesite, 2 layers of our stone, 2 layers of our diorite. And you can see what this does is it allows us just to have those areas right there. Then we go with, say, like that anti-aliasing technique of just blending these colors in a little bit more. And here we have basically, I have my top color, I have my bottom color, and I'm trying to basically use these guys in the middle to blend it in. But I also don't want the top to be extremely highlighted compared to the bottom. So you can see over here at our final result of this whole wall, there's a bunch of different variation of it going all the way down. We'll step back here to get a better view. But you can see at the top, it sticks with that lighter tone that we have there. And at the bottom, it has that much darker cobblestoney look to it. So you can see it's going from those darker grays into those lighter grays. That's a great way of smoothing out. Here's a larger scale. I think I did like cobblestone up to there, then andesite, then stone, and then diorite for the last three or something like that. But here, you can see the exact same features taking place here, kind of smoothing it out as it works up into that main area, or just kind of going from that dark all the way up to the light. There's a lot of variation in here, and you can see the different like strengths of all the blocks. We'll go ahead and look at one more last example down here. So over here, you can see our last example, which we're going to be looking at for this style at least, which is basically the same thing, but we're working at a slope here. So you can see those general tones like right there, especially where our cursor is in the middle. That andesite is working its way up there. You can see that general tone of it sliding and going up, and just kind of working with the shape of the terrain here. As our build slopes up, the gradient slopes up with it as well, so you can see just kind of that general idea. Now, let's go ahead and jump in creative, and I'll show you guys a little bit about how you can actually go ahead and do this yourself. All right, here we are in the creative world, and we're gonna be working with that same palette we had right there. And pretty much what we're gonna do is we're gonna start from the bottom here. And say we wanna mix this up and make it not all cobblestone, because then it looks very tiled. Let's go ahead and start by just bringing those 3 andesite blocks down there. Now the cobblestone looks still like it has a flat line right here. What if we went ahead and brought some cobblestone up into this area, bringing it up to like a max height of right there? That looks very much smoothed out there in the middle. And then it gets a little bit more complicated as we work between these sections right here. So we can go ahead and bring our andesite up here a little bit, say like that. And we got rid of a lot of stone, and we want to kind of keep it as an equal ratio because we did 3, 3, 3, and 3 to start out. So we can go ahead and bring our stone down here a little bit, and maybe we go ahead and do something like that. You can see it's really starting to blend in here a lot together, and maybe we go ahead and actually throw in another stone right there, just kind of so it breaks up that hard edge. But over here you can see that we have this hard edge here as well, where it's still the 3, then the 3, and that looks a little weird. So what we're gonna do here is we'll come back to that and fix that guy in a sec. But now we got to work with our stone going into our diorite area up here. So diorite at the top, because it's so much lighter than the rest, I like to leave it a little bit less and move a lot of stone up into that area. So you can see right there, and we can almost actually go ahead and even move an andesite in just to make that extra little dark spot. Then we can go ahead and bring the diorite down this way, say like right there and right there. Something like that. It's really starting to come down and seeping down through the moist area, or not the moist, but the color's really starting to come down. The sun bleach is hitting the top and it's coming down the wall slowly. So in this area, just to mix it up a little bit, we'll go ahead and do that, and like that, and like that. Because you don't want to have, you don't want to have any hard lines of cobblestone going all the way across, andesite going all the way across, stone going all the way across, or diorite going all the way across. You always want to mix up at every single level, because even if we just had, say, like the bottom right here, we left that as cobblestone, that gives a very hard base to it, and you want to be able to mix that up a little bit. So we go ahead and put that andesite back in there. Then this right here, that's pretty much all you got to do for texture variation in this style at least. I want to go ahead and show you guys general ideas that I use for roads and things like that going forward here. So let's go ahead and jump over into that. So when we were originally talking about how gradients work in pixel art, we were talking about the dithering effect, where you basically go one off and just go like one off, alternating where it is and smoothing the textures out in between. So in this type of environment right here, we have a very skinny road, but we still want to apply a little bit of texture variation and work with a bit of a gradient. So you can see very, very loosely down the center of this is our stone and gravel color. So we have that gray. Then to merge in with our grass, so it's not a very hard transition, we bring in the coarse dirt, and that helps to get us there. Then to make that final little step, we use our path block, because you can see that steps into that color a little bit better. Then that has a few more greeny, gray, tanny tones than this guy does, because that's mostly brown. Then that steps us into the grass. You can see this guy right here goes into the gravel fairly well, because it has a few of those little gray pixels in there. That kind of helps bring those together. Then the gravel helps us lead into the cobblestone. So it's a bunch of different steps of working with our gradient to move into that next color. So you can kind of see this example go further and further as we walk along the road. And to bring that little bit of green every once in a while into the center, we just throw a moss stone in there, and it really helps out just kind of bringing everything together. So you can kind of see this gradient at work here. So the next one I wanted to look at is a little bit more extreme of a gradient, and I'm really not super happy with this one yet, but it's what we got to work with. So these are the roads in our desert city, which is it's right over there, but we're just gonna look right here. So you can see right here that we have our coarse dirt in here, we have a oak wood in here, which is kind of the weird part in here, then we have path block. So our sand is very hard to work with, and we wanted to try and make something. I think an Enderman stole one of my blocks. That's lovely. Let's just go ahead and fill that in with the sand block. It works great. Helps with the gradient. But yeah, so you can see in here that it's a little bit harsher of a gradient than we were working with before. As we slowly move out to the edges, this one becomes a little harsh because the sand is so much lighter than what we have in here. But if you think about carts traveling along the roads, they would be bringing dirt into the area, and slowly the wheels would be picking up like the mud from being out in the forest or something, and they'd kind of kick it off into this area, and slowly there'd be a little bit more dirt and things on here as the road gets used a lot more and more. So that's kind of why we're using these colors. We're using the wood in here so that we get some sort of a half slab that's kind of that browny tanny color that we wanted to go with. A wood isn't the best idea. If we had a dirt slab, I would definitely be using that more. But that's something else we could add in here, is just a little bit of dirt to add more variation into it. You can see this kind of stuff slowly working out here together. But in the center, we have our tone in here. It's coarse dirt. Then we have our path block. Then we have our oak wood. And then the oak wood kind of is what's forcing that transition into the sand. Just a little bit, adding a bit more structure to the area. Doesn't work out super well in this guy, but that's kind of one of the examples we got. Now, as we finish this episode off, I want to talk about our sandstone structures. Many people have asked me why I don't use a texture gradient in them, because some builds and some styles look better without it. Here, if we had texture variation, it would look very, very weird because not many things work with sandstone. I know we do have a custom sandstone texture in here, so it makes it a little bit different. But sandstone styles and the desert styles are typically very smooth structures with some supporting things on the side, like what we have here with the bricks. So those are in there to add that little bit of variation and make sure it's not a fully smooth structure. So remember you can use depth and support as well to be able to add to your gradients. And there's a lot of different things. Here we tried using a gradient and putting sand in there, and you can see it looks a little weird. It makes it look much more weathered than anything else. And that could be something you're going for if you want to. This works a little bit better if you're using default sandstone and everything in there as well. Here we tried doing a very weird one that I should probably get rid of because it really sucks. We tried using red sandstone and regular sandstone. It just did not work out very well. Here you can see this one there again. And that's kind of where it's at right now, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, what you guys think about all these gradients. Let me know what you guys think of other things that you'd like to have a little bit more information about. If you guys enjoyed this video style, if you thought it was something worthwhile looking into further, that would be awesome. Be sure to let me know that down below in the comments. Guys, please hit that like if you did enjoy the video. Hit that subscribe if you're new, and I will catch you guys on the flip side.